Hello. Today I'd like to talk about some research into anger and pessimism. We might think that angry people are likely to suffer from poor health. That's because anger gets the blood pressure up, and high blood pressure is not healthy. Laid back people, on the other hand, don't get into a frenzy about things and therefore don't suffer from these bouts of increased blood pressure. Pessimistic people are those who see the world with a glass half empty rather than a glass half full. We might think that optimism is healthy, because if you see the world as a good place and think the best of people, then you're going to be happier and thus healthier. A positive outlook on life. Indeed, if you walk into any bookshop or browse books online or surf the internet, you're almost certainly going to come across books and articles about well-being, positive thinking and happiness. In fact, for the last 4 years there has been an annual report published by the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network which measures levels of happiness in different countries. People in Denmark are supposedly the happiest, by the way. However, these assumptions about happiness and optimism appear to be misleading. There's a body of evidence that bad-tempered people and people who are more pessimistic are more successful in life and may live longer. So let's look at the reasons why and consider a few examples. Apparently, being in a good mood for most of the time has a few risks. It reduces your motivation to work hard. It reduces your attention to detail and makes you more gullible and selfish. Gullible people believe what they are told too easily. So, for example, they may believe some poor advice for a financial investment, which turns out to be a poor investment. Or they might believe the sales pitch of a car salesman and buy a car which is either poor quality or not what they really needed. Those who are aware that something bad might happen are more cautious and thus less likely to accept information. They choose the safer option, the less risky option, and those people are generally considered more pessimistic. As a simple example, being positive or optimistic is known to encourage heavier alcohol consumption and overeating. Clearly these are not good for your health. A pessimist, on the other hand, might refuse an extra drink or the dessert at the end of a meal because they are concerned about the effects, both short-term and long-term. The cake might make me feel sick, I may put on weight, that sort of thing. The kind of person who is likely to lose their temper and get angry is likely to be more creative and have moments of genius more than their more even-tempered counterparts. Again, an example, the composer Beethoven had an incredibly short fuse. He would lose his temper very easily and throw things at his servants. Now, obviously Beethoven can be considered as having moments of genius through his music. Anger is also a common motivator in sport. Some of the most successful sports stars get angry when they are performing. The very best know how to harness this anger, which allows them to perform to an even higher standard. Now, one researcher at the University of Amsterdam in the Netherlands decided to study this anger and pessimism in more detail. He and his colleagues conducted experiments to examine creativity as a function of anger. He predicted that anger, rather than sadness or a neutral mood, would make people more creative with more original ideas because it made them less structured in their approaches to different tasks. And the results of the study supported his predictions. I'll just explain how he did this study. He asked half of his participants to write a short essay about something that made them angry. This process heightened their sense of anger. He asked the other half of the participants to do the same, but for something that made them sad, thus increasing their feelings of sadness. He then gave all of the participants the same task, to think creatively about ways of improving education in his department at the university. The angry group came up with more ideas, and more importantly, more original ideas than the sad group. The question is then, why does this happen? Why does anger boost creativity? Well, the researcher says, I quote, "Anger really prepares the body to mobilize resources. It tells you that the situation you are in is bad and gives you an energetic boost to get you out of it." Unquote. Anger, you see, increases the amount of adrenaline in the blood, which, besides being good for your physical strength, for example, to give you the ability to run away from danger, it also makes us feel more able to take mental risks like creativity challenges. Now, you may remember that I said at the beginning of this talk that anger raises the blood pressure and that a raised blood pressure might be bad for your health. Well, the thing with anger is that it passes. We can't keep that adrenaline flowing in the blood for too long. When the adrenaline disappears, the blood pressure drops again back to normal. Hence, there are no long-term effects. Conversely, people who do not show their emotions, who do not get angry, those who bottle up their angry emotions, do actually suffer more from high blood pressure because they don't let it all out. Now, I've really just scratched the surface of this topic, so hopefully I'll return to it at a later date. In the meantime, remember that creativity, and therefore potentially success, can stem from angry outbursts, so don't be afraid to lose your temper. Thank you.